Listening to the Mike Kara radio program, Eye on the Nation.
Welcome back to our next edition of the Mike Kara radio program, Eye on the Nation. We definitely have our eye on the nation. As always, proudly broadcasting from Ocoee, Florida, USA, planet Earth. And my next guest is Chris Sutton, who is a former street cop, sheriff, maximum security prison guard, author, and 6th-degree black belt. And he's created a self-defense system called COBRA that is a police academy for civilians. And we want to talk all about that. And Chris, pleasure and honor that you could join me today talking about self-defense. And as we mentioned, definitely a subject that I wanted to discuss with our audience. And we have some great questions. And first of all, can you tell us, because we know that there's a lot of right things to do and the wrong things to do, and we don't necessarily always want to focus on the wrong, but, sometimes that gets us to the right. But can you tell us 7 deadly mistakes people make every day that puts them at risk for a violent attack?
Absolutely, Mike, and thank you for having me on. When we discuss real-life self-defense, you have to throw out a lot of what we have seen on TV, what we hear from our friends, or what we perceive to be as an effective way to defend ourselves. The bottom line is, when we're brought into this world, when we go through school all the way to old age, we have zero self-defense training. So we kind of make it up as we go along with perception, what we see on TV, what we see in sports, or what we think might work, unless you actually get training. The top 7 that I'm going to go over next, they're going to be eye-openers. And some of it's basic, and some of it's pretty direct. Number 1, most people don't realize that the bad guy's in control 100% of the time from the get-go. I like to ask large audiences, do you know the secret formula that the bad guy always controls? And most people can't answer. It sounds like a ghost town in there. And, and it's not their fault. They don't have any training. And then someone inevitably will raise their hand and say, well, it's surprise. He has the element of surprise. That is the closest answer that people get to, and that's actually broken down into 3 categories. The bad guy always picks the time, he always picks the place, and he always picks the method of attack. We don't, you never get the luxury to get a text or an email, hey, at 4 o'clock, I'll be outside of Walmart and I'm going to rob you. It happens, and you don't know about it, and they always pick the time, place, and method. That's number 1. Most people don't realize that. They think they're absolutely in control of their own destiny when it comes to becoming a victim, and they're not. They always are reacting. Number 2, not adjusting their time, place, and method for maximum personal safety. Now, we just talked about the fact that the bad guy, he always picks time, place, and method. The 2 things you have control over are your time and your place. Here's an example. It's 3 p.m. I'm going into the grocery store. It's full of people. It's daytime. The parking lot's crowded. There's cameras everywhere. I feel pretty safe. 4 p.m. is the time. Place is the supermarket. Now, let's change our time. It's 11:30 at night. I'm leaving the supermarket. It's nighttime, so the place is the same. The time's a little different. That changes the entire formula. As a bad guy, as the hunter, I like 11:30 at night. I like the fact that it's really dark in the parking lot. You're not really paying attention, and you're walking out to your car with your head down, checking your Facebook status. That's me as the hunter, as the bad guy. So controlling your time and place, that's huge. When you tell your children, walk home right from the bus stop the way we told you to walk home, they might change their place by walking through the back alley behind little Johnny's house. Well, they change their place. At the same time, but they change their place, which changes the formula and has a dramatic effect on the outcome of a lot of crimes. Number 3, placing your lives in the hands of social media. I cannot express to you how frustrating it is as a self-defense instructor that you see people in the head-down, status-checking or texting mode, and you are an absolute sitting duck. The first thing a lot of people do when they get in their car, they check their status. First thing they do at a restaurant when they sit down, check their status. They're into that cell phone. There's a time and place for that, but you really need to sit down, be aware of your surroundings, and not only that, it goes a step further. If you're posting pictures of your family online and then telling people when you're on vacation online, they know where you live, what your family looks like, what it consists of, what your address is, and when you're going to be in and out of town. Social media, it's frightening from a self-defense standpoint because it makes it so easy for the bad guy. No longer does he have to really walk by a house and check the doorknobs and check the mail and see if you're home. He just friends you on Facebook if he thinks you're good looking or you might have a nice car or a lot of possessions, and he waits for the perfect opportunity. And the perfect opportunity might be when John says every day, off to work, with his Facebook status, and I know as a bad guy he doesn't have an alarm system and he's at work and I'm going to go in and I'm going to rob this guy. So putting our hands in the lives of social media is one of the most dangerous things you can do. Number 4, we are in our vehicles almost every day of our lives. I know I'm in and out of my vehicle 3, 4, 5, up to 20 times a day. One of the biggest things you can do is what I call lock and relocate. Like I said before, when you sit in your vehicle, you are now a sitting duck. You need to be a moving target immediately. Why? Because the bad guy, he's already picking the time and place. Let's say you're an attractive female. And I watched you go in to the Hess station and pay for your gas. You're standing in a line. Well, you come outside and you're sitting there and, you sit in your vehicle, you look at your status, you adjust your mirror, you put your lipstick on or whatever it is you're doing. You make a phone call. You're sitting. I've already planned as the bad guy to approach you when you come out. I'm hoping that you don't drive off. The best advice I can give and the best thing you can do is lock that vehicle and relocate. Check your status at the first red light or move to another parking lot because you don't know who already has you picked to be their potential victim. Remember, we don't know what people are thinking. We don't know what their plans are. And if my car has been in the driveway all night or all day at work and I'm getting off at 9:30 at night, the last thing you ever want to do is sit for another 8 minutes in that vehicle. I'm going to tell you a quick story. I was giving a COBRA defense class, and we had 2 students, and they were running late. It started at 9 a.m. I look out of the window of the school, and they are in the parking lot, and it takes them approximately 9 minutes to pull their hair back, do their makeup, do all this adjusting. There are 2 young females in the vehicle. They're soft targets. They're sitting targets. So when you sit in that vehicle, it gives another person the opportunity to make a plan and act on it. Number 5, most people have zero real-life self-defense training. We see things on TV, and number 5 would be the fact that we continue to insure items like cell phones, cars, houses. Why do we insure our vehicles? We're worried about the other driver, not us, right? Why do we insure our house? We're worried about the possibility of a hurricane. We even insure our flat-screen TVs. Why? Because in 3 years, if one of the bulbs go out, guess what? We want it replaced. So we are insuring all these possessions that are depreciating as I'm talking right now. And one of the last things we put a priority on is ourselves. In kindergarten, there is no prerequisite for self-defense training, all the way through high school, college, or life. And you will constantly meet a stranger on a daily basis, if not hundreds of them on a daily basis, for the rest of your life. I mean, am I right? You will go out there to the mall, to McDonald's, to wherever it is, and you'll meet strangers. And we just trust that nothing will ever happen to us. But we don't want to trust other drivers, and we don't want to trust the weather, and we don't want to trust the cell phone companies, but we trust everyone on the planet not to harm us. Now, we're not looking to be paranoid or walk on eggshells, but learning self-defense isn't this really difficult, I got to sweat and, bench press a ton of weight and run really fast. It's what you know. It really is what you know, and more importantly, sometimes what you don't know. So that's number 5, walking around with zero real-life self-defense training other than what we see on TV. For instance, UFC. I love that stuff. It's great. It's not real at all. Those guys are outstanding athletes, just like boxing, just like anything else, and they have great technique. However, as a police officer, I can tell you, and a lot of police officers can, no one ever will put you in a real fancy move that you're going to see on the UFC. That stuff doesn't exist because your attacker is highly aggressive and highly untrained. You got to remember, these guys have predetermined knowledge of their attacker, for the UFC, who their opponent is, a padded surface, a rule book, a referee, A lot of things they're not allowed to do. They're in great shape. They're ready for this fight. They're prepared. That's a sport. If you're going to be good at that, train for that. Real life, hey, you know what? I'm going to be attacked today at 5 o'clock. Someone's going to get out of their car with a hammer and come at me, aggressive, trying to hurt me. I don't know that's coming. I just have to react to it. And I'm not going to put him in a fancy armbar or Kimura. He doesn't have any training for the most part. Remember, your bad guys they're not black belts. They're not military and ex-police officers. For the most part, they're just the average criminal trying to make their way in this world, kicking and punching. Even 5-year-olds know how to kick and punch. And when you grow up to be 35, now that's all you know how to do, kick, punch, and take someone to the ground. So you want to train for the person you're going to meet 80% of the time. So that's, your general bad guy. Number 6, most people do not practice traffic awareness as it relates to self-defense. I remember as a police officer, one of the biggest things they would tell you for officer safety is do not pull up without enough room to take your car left or right at a moment's notice. And try to avoid pulling up where you're window to window with someone. What does that mean? If I cut someone off and now they're following me in traffic. They're behind me, they're honking, they're giving me their hand gestures. I'm stopped at a red light. I see the guy get out of the vehicle. The first line of self-defense is avoiding it at all costs, conflict avoidance. That's the first thing we're going to try. If you're 3 feet from the person in front of you, you can't turn left and you can't turn right without hitting that vehicle. You've boxed yourself in. So you have no out at that point. You want to give yourself an out. That could be a means of escape. You could jump a median, do a U-turn, never see that guy again. Guess what? You avoided everything just by practicing traffic awareness as it pertains to self-defense. And what I mean when I say pulling up next to someone window to window, a lot of altercations or a lot of things are started with you pulling up next to someone who has bad intentions, maybe some young teenager or just some punk off the street who's used to bullying people, and he looks over at you and rolls the window down and gives you a hand gesture, and you're locking eyes, you get into a staring contest, and now he's following you. So if you will just stop short of being window to window with someone, no one's looking in your vehicle, you're not looking in anyone's vehicle, leave yourself enough room to pull left or right before you stop if there's a vehicle in front of you. That's basic traffic safety as it pertains to self-defense. Number 7, not understanding how to use everyday weapons. I give a complete seminar. I've done so many, news shows on a seminar called Everyday Weapons. We do it every 10-week academy. We do it in the survival camps. It's done all over the nation with all of our licensed COBRA facilities. Basically, you're looking at things and identifying that could absolutely be used as a weapon, and I will use it as a weapon, and this is how I will use it as a weapon. Now, I've identified it as a weapon, but my attacker has no idea that I would use it. There's some things that are obvious, a screwdriver, a pin, and we always get that. And then there's a lot of myths. A lot of people say, well, I would put my key between my fingers and use it to jab them. No, you won't, because it doesn't work. We do it all the time. We test it at our headquarters, at the COBRA Defense headquarters, and that doesn't work at all. You hit something with the key, it goes against your palm, it falls on the ground, now you don't have the weapon at all. So we teach a series of tactics, everything from hot coffee to rings to belts to broken CDs. These things can all be used as effective self-defense weapons. And even when a police officer stops you and he says, do you have any weapons in the car that I need to be concerned about? He wouldn't even notice them because they don't look like weapons. You've identified them as weapons. You make them ready in your vehicle, in your home, and you're prepared to use them. And that's the biggest thing. Be prepared to use something as a weapon. And number 8, having the biggest false sense of security when it comes to certain items. I always ask on day 1, what do you tell your children or what have you been told to keep on speed dial? Inevitably, people will say 911. I have done this demonstration year after year for over a decade. Our locations nationwide do it. It's been on the news. It is such a simple demonstration, but it blows people away because they came in thinking one thing, and they leave thinking another. It's called the cell phone demo. I hear parents talking about, have 911 on speed dial, and they send their daughter or their son on their way, and it makes them feel really confident and really comfortable. And females and males alike. Well, I'll just call 911. Let me give you a scenario. in our training centers, and you can look at it live on YouTube and on the news broadcast that I've been on, I will ask the average person, I will call them out of the audience, and I will ask them, how many feet do you think you need to get a cell phone out of the bag? I show them a cell phone. It's a bright green cell phone. And dial 911, give them a description of what I look like, and just give them a location of where you're at, just a street name. People will say 20 feet. I give them 40. Now, keep in mind, I gave them the secret formula, time, place, and method. I'm going to be 40 feet away, and I'm going to walk to you. And as soon as I start walking, I tell them, as soon as I move, get that phone out, put it up to your ear, dial 911, and describe what's going on. And when I get to them, if I get close enough to actually touch them, I will let them know I'm there by touching them on the shoulder, then I'll play the 911 operator. 911, what's your emergency? Nobody has ever beat this demonstration. Now, I put them in the best possible case scenario. I'm 40 feet away, which they asked for 20. I gave them 40. I walk up to them. I told them I'm coming, and they can't do it. They fumble with the phone. They can't dial 911. They dial 748. They can't get the description out. They forgot the address at the school. They absolutely cannot do it. That cell phone is useless and pointless in self-defense. The actual statistic, and we've actually measured it, to get a calm, cool, and collected phone call to 911, full description, is a 150 to 200 feet. Now, you will never have that opportunity because altercations happen in rooms, by vehicles within 15 to 20 feet. So you'll never have that 200-foot warning. And not only that, when you get that phone call off, you have to spend 5 to 10, maybe 15 minutes with me, the bad guy. So you have to know how to defend yourself. Say you're the fastest person on the planet. You get the phone out, call 911 within 40 feet. I'm in trouble. The guy's got a black shirt, short hair. I'm at Sunset in US 19. Guess what? You still have to deal with me. I'm still in front of you as the bad guy. Because I know from a police officer standpoint that it has to go to dispatch, then go to the vehicle. And I might be stuck in traffic or at lunch. Then I have to hit my sirens. Then I have to find where you're at. All the while, you're being attacked. So you actually have to learn to use your hands, use your mind, and use every type of weapon around you just to defend yourself. And guns. Guns are the worst thing in the world to put your security into. And we'll talk about that because there's a question on the list that pertains to firearms. You're not as fast as you think you are. Concealed weapons permit is useless for a lot of people. Even most cops are killed by their own guns. The gun is not your friend. He doesn't pick one side or the other. He's completely neutral. And whoever gets it first, guess what? That's the gun's friend. Whoever pulls the trigger. I mean, it doesn't have a preference. It's just a tool. And a lot of people don't get that. So those are your top 7 deadly sins.
Okay, Chris, we're going to take a quick break and we will be back. My guest today is Chris Sutton from COBRA Defense Systems. Today we're talking all about self-defense, and Chris has got a great program. It's called COBRA, and today we've been talking about a lot of different self-defense tips and tricks and ways to keep yourself the most safe. And basically what we're talking about kind of is revolves around what is being taught in the COBRA self-defense system. So we definitely want to encourage everyone to check out Chris's website and get more information. Chris is going to be back in the future. That is guaranteed. And he is going to be offering us some maybe Halloween safety tips, Christmas safety tips, travel safety tips, hotel safety tips, and we hope that this will become a regular series. So we're very excited about that. You are listening to the Mike Kara Radio program, Eye on the Nation. We definitely have our eye on the nation, as always, proudly broadcasting from Ocoee, Florida, USA, planet Earth. And please stay with us for our next segment of this edition of our program today.